Have a nice day, children. Today our lesson is Unit 7 from History, State and Society in Medieval India, from the Cholas to the Mughals. We will see about the introduction. The medieval period from the 7th century AD till the beginning of Mughal rule in the 16th century. The Mughal era from the 16th to 18th century is referred to as the early modern period. The political scenario in all parts of India underwent momentous definitive changes which transformed the social and economic fabric and development of the country. Major political changes. The expansion of the Chola Empire extending north till Orissa. The beginning of several centuries of Muslim rule in Delhi and the spread of Islam to different parts of the country. The consequent rise of many religious kingdoms in South India. The Vijayanagar Empire, which exercised authority over all South India. Muslim rule under the Mughals in the north, beginning in 1526 AD with the defeat of the Ibrahim Lodi by Babur. Mughal Empire stretched from Kabul to Gujarat to Bengal, from Kashmir to South India. The coming of the Europeans, beginning with the Portuguese who arrived on the west coast of India in 1498. Political changes. Muslim rule was established in Delhi at the end of the 12th century by Muhammad Ghori. The impact of Muslim rule was felt during the reign of Alauddin Khilji, who sent military campaigns to the south. The primary objective was to plunder the wealth rather than to expand his territory. Devagiri near Aurangabad was captured by Alauddin Khilji, renamed Daulatabad. Alauddin Khilji's slave and commander Malik Kafur was sent on military expeditions. The Tughlaq kings who came after Alauddin also sent their armies to the south. As a result, came into the orbit of the rulers of the north. Governors were appointed in various provinces in the Deccan region. During the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there was a revolt. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there was a revolt in Daulatabad. Alauddin Bahman Shah set up the Bahmani Sultanate in 1347 with his capital in Bidar. The Bahmani kingdom survived for nearly a century and a half, mainly due to the able administration of Muhammad Ghuvan, a great statesman and loyal minister. After his death, many viceroys declared their independence, and by the end of the 15th century, 5 sultanates came up in the Deccan, that is Bijapur, Golconda, Ahmednagar, Berar and Bida. The Deccan sultanates were conquered by Aurangzeb in the 1660s AD. The Chola Empire in the south. The territorial expansion of the Chola Empire began under Rajaraja I. The Pandya kingdom remained independent but was subservient to the Cholas. The empire expanded further under Rajendra I, who had successfully taken his armies as far to the northeast as the river Ganges. He had also sent naval expeditions against Kadaram and Ceylon. This earned him the title the Chola who had conquered the Ganga and Kadaram. So, Gangayum Kadaramum Konda Cholan. Ceylon remained a province of the Chola Empire for a few decades. The empire was further consolidated through marriage with the eastern Chalukyas under Rajendra's grandson Klotunga I and extended up to the border of Orissa. Next, we will see about Vijayanagar and South India after the Cholas. The Chola Empire began to decline after the middle of the 13th century. The last known Chola emperor was Rajendra III. The empire died out in 1279 AD. This kingdom extended through much of the present day state of Karnataka. The Kakatiyas ruled from Warangal, that is Telangana, while the Yadavas ruled in Devagiri until Devagiri fell to Alauddin Khalji's forces at the end of the 13th century. The establishment of the kingdom of Vijayanagar was the most momentous development in the history of South India in the medieval period. The kingdom was established by Harihara and Bukka, two brothers. They were the first rulers of the Sangama dynasty. They founded a new capital city on the southern banks of the Tungabhadra, which they named Vijayanagara. That is, Vijayanagara means the city of victory. Harihara was crowned in 1336 AD. The Sangama dynasty ruled Vijayanagar for nearly 1.5 centuries. This was followed by the Salva dynasty, which was in power only for a brief period. The Tulva dynasty then succeeded as rulers. Krishnadevaraya, the greatest ruler of Vijayanagar, belonged to this family. The rulers of Vijayanagar were almost continuously at war. Finally, the combined forces of the 5 Deccani Sultanates defeated Vijayanagar in 1565 AD at the Battle of Talikota. The Vijayanagar emperors then shifted their capital further south to Penugunda and eventually to Sandragiri near Tirupati. Next, about the Mughals. The Mughal Empire was founded by Babur in 1526 AD after he defeated Ibrahim Lodi at Panipat. The first 6 Mughal emperors are referred to as the Great Mughals. Aurangzeb was the last of the Great Mughals. A new power center rose in Maharashtra in the 17th century, and the Marathas, under the leadership of Shivaji, seriously undermined the authority of the Mughals in West India. Next, the arrival of the Europeans. During the 15th century, the Europeans were preoccupied with trying to find a direct sea route to India. By gaining direct access to India, the Europeans could exercise more direct control over the spice trade and obtain the spices at more favorable prices. In 1498 AD, Vasco da Gama landed on the Kerala coast. Barely 5 years later, the Portuguese built their first fort at Cochin in 1503 AD. Goa was captured in 1510 AD and became the center of the Portuguese state in India. Other European nations soon followed the Portuguese, most notably the Dutch, English, and French. During the 17th century, when Mughal authority was still powerful, the European companies were able to trade in the Mughal Empire. In South India, however, political authority was fragmented and much less cohesive, and they had their own enclaves over which they exercised complete authority. The Dutch were in Pulicat, that is and later Nagapattinam, the English in Madras, the French in Pondicherry, and the Danes in Tarangambadi, that is Tranquebar. Now we will see about the impact on polity. The Chola period was an enterprising period when trade and the economy expanded, accompanied by urbanization. The basic unit of local administration was the village, that is Wood, followed by the sub-region, that is Nadu. The district is Kotam. Tax-free villages granted to Brahmins were known as Brahmadeya. The establishment of Islamic rule in Delhi made a big impact on Indian society. Arab merchants, for instance, when they came and settled on Kerala coast, married local women and led a peaceful life. The situation changed when Islam became a state power. A notable development was the profusion of contemporary historical accounts of the Muslim sultanates by Arab and Persian historians. Al-Bruni, Ibn Battuta, and Ferishta are among the best known of the Muslim historians. These historians provide valuable information about the rulers and the event of the medieval period. The Mughal Empire transformed the economy and society of North India. The empire was consolidated under Akbar through his policy of co-opting the Hindu Rajput rulers under the umbrella of Mughal rule. At the height of its power, the Mughal Empire was one of the largest, richest, and most powerful empires in the entire world. The arrival of the Europeans in India ultimately culminated in the establishment of colonial rule in India under the British. There was an explosion in the demand for Indian textiles in the European markets, often referred to as the Indian craze. This led to a significant expansion of textile production in India, which was accompanied by an expansion of the production of commercial crops like cotton and indigo and other dyes. Now we will see about society. First one is caste. Caste is the most distinctive aspect of Indian society. We first need to understand two dimensions of the term caste. First, fourfold division of society as specified in the religious texts referred to as Varna. Improving the status of their jati was a major preoccupation for all caste groups. This is particularly evident after the 14th century when the traditional local assemblies, which controlled the resources and social interactions, began to weaken. Next, we will see about the religion. Diverse institutions with different ideologies came up within the Bhakti movement during the medieval period. Buddhism had faded out in India. Jainism also lost ground in the most parts of India due to emergence of Bhakti movement under Shankara and Ramanuja. With regard to Christianity, there were a small number of Christian groups in Kerala claiming their origins to the time of St. Thomas, the disciple of Jesus. The local population was under great pressure to convert to Christianity. The best known among the Jesuit missionaries was St. Francis Xavier, who was instrumental in making the fishing community to take to Christianity in the Tuticorin region. Another notable Jesuit was Roberto Di Nobili, a scholar who was based in Madurai. In the north, a new religion, Sikhism, was founded by Guru Nanak, who lived during 15th and 16th century. Foreign religions also came to India when Jews and Zoroastrians, that is Parsis, migrated to India. Next, we will see about culture. The Chola period was an era of a remarkable cultural activity. The best known classical poet Kamban wrote Ramayana in Tamil, which was formally presented, Arangetram, that is, in the temple at Srirangam. Sekila's Periyapuranam similarly was presented at the temple in Chidambaram. Among the other great works of the period is Kalingathu Parani and Moovarula. The monumental architecture of the Cholas is visible in the great temple of Tanjavur, Gangaikonda, Cholapuram and Dharasuram. Stone images and bronze images. The best known of them is the iconic representation of Shiva as Nataraja performing the cosmic dance. The Mughals were well known for their aesthetic values and were great patrons of the arts. They left behind numerous monuments to constructing entire cities like Shahjahanabad, Delhi, and Fatehpur Sikri, gardens, mosques, and forts. A large volume of religious literature, especially in Sanskrit, was produced under the patronage of the Nayaks and the Vijayanagar rulers. Telugu literature flourished under royal support. A new style of Tamil literature called Prabandham emerged during this period. Let's see about economy. First one is agriculture. India was predominantly an agricultural country, and a very large proportion of the population lived in rural areas and depended on agriculture. Both in the north and the south, agriculture depended heavily on irrigation. Construction of lakes, tanks, and reservoirs with sluices to let out the water, as well as the use of check dams, all increased the availability of water for irrigation. In the north, the Persian wheel was used for lifting water from wells. Variety of food grains like wheat, rice, and millets were grown apart from lentils and oil seeds. Many other commercial crops were also grown, such as sugarcane, cotton, and indigo. Other than the general food crops, South India had a regional specialization in pepper, cinnamon, spices, and coconut. Same way, potatoes, chilies, and tomatoes also became an integral part of Indian food. Non-agricultural production. Non-agricultural production refers to both processed agricultural products and craft production. Primarily, the products can be grouped under processed agricultural products and also the craft production. Craftsmen generally worked on an individual or family basis from their homes or workshops to though larger manufacturing units, karkhanas, employing many craftsmen were set up under the Mughal state. Next we will see about the textiles. Bengal and Gujarat are the famous for silk. Dyed and printed or patterned cloth involved the use of vegetable dyes. India had two natural advantages in cotton weaving. The first was the cotton grew in almost all parts of India. Other dye crops like the chai root for red color were also grown in India. Dyewoods and resins like lac were imported. In addition, a range of colors were produced by using flowers and fruits and products like turmeric in various combinations. Next one we will see about the commerce. The large manufacturing sector essentially produced goods for exchange and not for self-use. The village was the first basic geographical unit of production and was essentially a subsistence economy, and barter was the medium of exchange. Big cities were usually major commercial centers with bazaars and shops. Ships and boats were used to send the goods. Maritime trade across the Indian Ocean extended from China in the east to Africa in the west had flourished for many centuries. The major imports from China and the East were silk, Chinese ceramics, gold, spices, aromatic woods, and camphor. Silk, drugs, dyewoods, and sugar were the main imports from Persia, while gold, ivory, and slaves were brought in from East Africa. Let's see about urbanization. Travelers coming to India in the medieval period noted that there were a number of urban centers of various size, from cities to small market towns throughout India, though the country was primarily rural. What were the factors which facilitated urbanizations? It has been observed that cities and towns fulfilled diverse and overlapping roles in the economy. The large cities were centers of manufacturing and marketing, banking, and financial services. They were usually located at the intersection of an extensive network of roads. Conclusion. The medieval period, covering more than 700 years of Indian history, was a time when momentous changes took place in political landscape, which also transformed the social and economic fabric of the country. Let's we see about events happening in Europe during this period. Holy Roman Empire and Emperor Charlemagne. The emperor was supposed to be a representative of God on earth like the Pope. The emperor dealt with the political matters while the Pope dealt with the spiritual. The emperor was superior to everybody else in the world except the Pope. Charlemagne, the king of France, was the first Holy Roman Emperor to assume the title. Charlemagne was a contemporary of Pallava king Nandivarman II and Pradihara ruler Nagapata I. King John and the Great Magna Carta. The nobles in England forced King John to sign a Charter of Liberty in 1215 AD. It is Magna Carta or the Great Charter. This charter contained a promise that the king would respect certain liberties of the nobles and the people of England. The theory of the supremacy of the ruler, which prevailed in the Holy Roman Empire, was not accepted in England. King John of England was a contemporary of Sultan Iltutmish in India. Thus, in England, we find that the king's power was checked early. Okay, let's see the book back question and answer. Thank you, ma. Take care of yourself. Learn book back question and answer.